Hey there folks, this is Screen Watching. My name's Dan Barrett, joined here by this guy. His name's Simon Foster. What do we do on this here podcast? We watch the movies, we watch the TV shows. What are the TV shows? This week, it's a spin-off from a very popular little TV program. You may have heard of it. It's called The Office. But the TV show I'm talking about is called The Paper. To discuss, Simon, he's going to talk about a movie. That's what he contributes to this podcast. Good looks, a reasonably okay sense of hygiene, and movie talk. He's going to talk about The Roses, which I am assured is a comedy, but I am skeptical. Also, we've got other things we've been watching. Simon's going to quickly delve through what seems to be a bit of a horror film or a poorly named rom-com called Conjuring Last Rites, and also something called Thank You Very Much, which is also either a rom-com and or a adult feature. Me, I'm going to be taking a look into a 3-film monty of classic features that I've watched during the week. All movies. I watched The Materialists, finally got around to that one. I watched a film from, I'm going to say it's like 1989, called Downtown, which is my white whale of a movie. Folks, we're going to talk about that in depth. Not so much the movie because it sucks, but certainly my quest to see this movie. And then also I watched this little film called Pulp Fiction, a film that I have seen to death. You know, when there is those movies out in the world where you've just watched that film so many times, the idea of sitting down to watch it, as much as you must love that movie, like, you just cannot do it. It just can't be done anymore. I haven't been able to do it now for over 20 years. I did it a couple of days ago. Folks, going to talk about the experience of that and more on Screen Watching.
This is not like TV, only better.
Television! Teacher! Mother!
Secret lover.
What, that's it? That's your movie?
Well, I said that I had an idea for a movie.
Daniel Barrett, what an introduction that was. You've revisited Pulp Fiction again after all these years. That's very exciting. I haven't seen that in a long, long time. I hope you're well. I hope the screen watchers are all well the world over. We've spent a lot of time watching screens this week, movies and or televisual. I've spent a good chunk of yesterday squeezing this thing out of my face. Those of us on YouTube can see that I'm wearing a Band-Aid across my left temple. That was a wholly unpleasant experience, I can assure you. And also this week I've launched the Science Fiction Film Festival program that I'm in charge of. So I'm going to get rid of the plug that I would normally do at the end of the show when no one listening to, and put it at the top of the show. So if you go to sydneysciencefictionfilmfestival.com.au, you'll see details of the 11 sessions we present here in Sydney on October 3.
I don't want to produce on the fly, but I can't help but feel that you would lose less people if you gave the plug and then talked about squeezing things out of your face.
Yes, that might have been a better order to run with. Yes, the corpuscular event of my yesterday evening was probably far less interesting than news about my program. But anyway, for those of us still listening, we really should get on with the podcast.
Indeed we shall. Simon, I want to delve straight into the show that I've been looking forward to / being quite concerned about. It's called The Paper.
Here is one of my articles I'm particularly proud of. I'm scrolling, and I'm scrolling, and I'm learning a lot.
It's gonna take a little time while you're waiting like a factory line.
My name is Ned Sampson. I am your new editor-in-chief.
Have you read this paper?
Uh-huh.
How do you think it compares to any other paper?
It sucks. But we are going to make it better. I hope it's not too disruptive to have me come in and sort of shake everything up.
Oh, no, don't be so self-defecating.
Simon, you know what I'm like. I mean, for all sorts of reasons, but it's specifically in regards to this one. Spin-offs, reboots, please just don't. Generally, I think there's only been one good reboot TV program, or one spin-off series, rather, that I want to sort of say here. A little spin-off from the Mary Tyler Moore Show called Lou Grant.
Perfect.
What was great about Lou Grant? Good question. What was great about that was that the spin-off took the titular, well, would become the titular Lou Grant character from a very traditional multi-camera sitcom and put him into a 1-hour drama series. Mm-hmm. So you kept the integrity of the character, but you put him in an entirely different vibe. And so the character sort of left to, sink or swim on its own merit then. It's not trying to coast or try to relive past glories.
And as you pointed out, that was the best of the bunch. That was a great show in its own right and gave the character room to grow in a real and human way.
Also a show which I will have to say, it's been difficult to find around the place. It doesn't really get sort of screened anywhere. You don't really find on streaming services. There is a sneaky upload of it currently sitting on YouTube. So if you do want to watch some Lou Grants, you can watch all, I think, 4 or 5 seasons there. So, moving on, when we came to the idea of a spin-off from The Office US, okay, a little bit concerned, okay, for a couple of reasons.
You've been a tightly springed coil about this for a few weeks now. I can sense it in the things you write about it and the way you talk about it. I'm
Haven't been sleeping.
No, I can tell.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to The Office US, there's been a couple of imitators around the place. You got the Australian version of The Office, which took very much the American version of The Office as its inspiration, less so the UK version. And the Australian version, it stank. It was really just unpleasantly just awful. A couple of other foreign versions. I don't speak the language, I can't really judge. But there are other spin-offs that you can look at here. So, Parks and Recreation, which is more a spiritual spin-off from The Office than an actual proper spin-off. That show, really quite good. But, much like the original US Office, the first season of Parks and Recreation, not so good. It takes them a while to find the characters, find what works in the program. I knew, just instinctively, when I saw they were doing a spin-off series from The Office, okay, regardless if it was going to be very much aligned with what we know as being The Office, or if it was more a spiritual spin-off in the style of Parks and Recreation, I knew that we were going to look at a TV show that was going to be a chore for the first couple of episodes until they find their way in. Would they find their way in by the end of the season, or would this be a season 2 proposition should it be lucky enough to get to it? Those are the questions. So, I pressed play on the first episode of the paper, and here's the thing. Didn't hate it, didn't really love it either. The real test for watching this would be watching a couple of episodes, and then you make a bit of a determination. You think, is this starting to find a little bit of traction? And this is the thing with like all classic comedies. It's unfair just to rest it on The Office as a show, which isn't really particularly great at the beginning. Like even, something like Seinfeld. Like
Season 4, hit it straight. I've always said Season 4 and Season 5 are the best of most shows.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure I entirely buy that. Certainly sitcoms, I think there's probably an argument to be made there. I think for sitcoms, Season 3 through 5, I think that's your strong point.
Sure.
Seinfeld was a bit interesting in that it was 4 pilot episodes, and then there was, I think, 5 or 6 episodes of a season 2, and then season 3, which kind of really started to find like a bit of energy around it. But like that show got knocked around a fair bit. Cheers is one of those unusual shows, which is actually an amazing pilot from the outset. Like, have you watched the Cheers pilot, Simon?
Sure, yeah, of course.
Yeah. Sit down and watch it. Like it as a masterclass, that half hour of TV. But that is the rarity. Most of the shows take a bit of time. And certainly, watching the paper, it takes some time. I'm watching this first episode. I wasn't really loving it. But as I was watching the characters, I'm like, you know what? Half of these characters are going to be radically different by the end of this season, if not in completely reformatted in season 2. I'm just going to ride it through. There are a couple of characters in this that just flat out do not work. Okay, our Italian friend from The White Lotus season 2, I found her to be a complete chore. Comes episode 4, I think it is, of the first season of this, you start to see, wait, they've actually kind of shifted her around a little bit, and I think they're trying to make her work here. Okay, she's a bit of an antagonist at the beginning, but as soon as they get her teaming up with our protagonist character, like it really starts to play.
See,
premise-wise, we should discuss this.
Sorry, let me just say one thing, and only because it's relevant to that point. The reluctance I have in jumping to this, and although I have no problem with him as a dramatic actor and someone who's done physical comedy
we haven't talked
before,
about who he is or what the premise is.
Sure, but...
Can we just do that and then we'll get to him?
All right, okay.
Okay, premise of this, really, really simple. The Office was a look at a paper company called Dunder Mifflin. We're watching it as a documentary, but it's more a mockumentary, and so you get to know the difficult boss, the wacky characters that live and breathe Dunder Mifflin through the course of the series. The spin-off series, instead of just being a look at another company, it actually takes a bit more of a Lou Grant approach to it, and we see a main character played by Domhnall Gleeson, affecting an American accent and not his delightful Irish brogue. He's here as a guy who he had a journalism degree, which kind of got waylaid. His career got waylaid, and he's managed to convince his bosses who own a paper company, and as one of the subset companies within the companies, there happens to be a small local paper called the Toledo Truth Teller. I think that's right. And so he convinces them, mostly his dad who owns the business, to let him, take over this small paper. So he's in there and finds that he's got no resources. He's got very few paid staff. He just really can't make a go of this, but he still tries to make a go of it. And it's about them trying to set this local paper up and running. In a lot of ways, it's more like Parks and Recreation than it is the paper. That's the premise of the series. Domhnall Gleeson, Simon, go.
The reason I was drawn and have been drawn to the US version of The Office was that Steve Carell brought a reputation of being funny, and we could look at him and understand his comic perspective and understand what he was bringing to the character that Ricky Gervais made real in the UK version, and it transplanted more easily, I guess you got to say. The problem I have with Domhnall Gleeson is that I don't know him as a comedian. It's a big leap to go to this and expect him to bring the funnies. And the point you make about the lovely Italian actress, whose name I don't remember, from White Lotus, is that she's in the same boat. That these aren't not people that come with comedic reputations.
Yeah, and this is the thing. I don't think that it's strictly a comedy. And the more that it leans into its sitcom elements, the less I was kind of enamored with it, at least in the first couple of episodes. But as all these comedies tend to become, they tend to lean towards becoming a hangout sitcom, where it's less about the actual plot of the week and more just hanging out with these characters with whatever crazy antics they're going to be up to this week.
Sure.
And so by the time that you start hitting midway through the season, you start to become a bit more invested in that kind of a vibe. And even Domhnall Gleeson, even our Italian, I've run out of phrases here for it at this point, you kind of want to spend time with them. You're digging their vibe. Now, as I said, there are a couple of characters which really don't work. One of the characters they struggle with in this is they've really shoehorned in the character of Oscar from The Office, bringing him over into this new environment where the problem with that character is that he is not a journalist, and nor does he really aspire to be doing that. And so he's kind of this accountant who is very reluctant to get involved in everything. And so he's just by nature of that, just a bit of a challenge of a character. They certainly find their way to start using him by the end of the season, but he is the one that I think all eyes are on because we all love that guy, and he's the one where it's probably the most difficult to make work.
The other thing that feels a little dated to me and a little hard to contend with in 2025 is the mockumentary sort of look and feel. That was the kind of the thing with The Office and Parks and Rec and Modern Family, when it was all kind of a camera crew follows them around. That feels like it's kind of spent in 2025.
Look, I think there's something to that. I think that shows in the last couple of years that have come around doing the same mockumentary vibe, I'm looking at you, Abbott Elementary, I've always just felt like they're sort of power knockoffs of what we were seeing 20 years ago in this format. I don't think that we get away from that with this, but I would say that in story, they do justify the reason it's mockumentary, in that they are picking up the same documentary from years gone by, only they find that Dunder Mifflin in Scranton is no longer there. And so they have to move somewhere. So they follow the money and find themselves over in Toledo.
All right. Okay, well, your lukewarm review has done nothing to make me want to watch this again.
Sorry, let me just sort of clarify here. Lukewarm in that I think that to come to this program, you're on a bit of a journey. I think that back when The Office launched, back when Parks and Recreation launched, that era of TV, and that was the end of this kind of era of TV, we as viewers were used to the idea of, hey, I've checked out this new comedy, didn't really enjoy it, won't come back to it. But then you hear your friends who've stuck with it and are like, you should probably give that a look. And then you swing back 2 seasons later and like, oh, that was actually pretty funny. And then you kind of catch up, with the episodes that you missed along the way, and you sort of keep on going with it.
Feels like.
That's what we used to do with TV, but in a streaming environment, it's quite different these days. And so The Paper, I think, is a show which absolutely would lose a whole bunch of its audience if it was doing it weekly, which was the original rollout plan for this. But they've decided to drop it as a binge. Those that stick with it up till episode 3 are going to find themselves actually falling a bit more into the show than they were in those first 2 episodes. So very good call to binge drop it. I think that, and I'm only in episode 6, I think, at this point, and I'm really enjoying the show quite a lot more. So again, it's part of this journey, and I'm trying to review the show as a entirety of what's dropped versus what I would probably be doing 20 odd years ago, where I may have, reviewed this a couple of weeks ago, and then I've come back and I'm like, you know what? I think I was a bit wrong about this program. It's actually really quite good. Swing back and check it out. But we don't talk about TV shows in that same way anymore, so it's a difficult challenge. So if I came off as lukewarm, understand I'm trying to talk about the totality of what is a old school style sitcom rollout, okay, but within a streaming environment. I think it's good, not great, but it's got potential to keep on getting better and better in the way that these shows do.
Where can anyone watch The Paper?
It is here in Australia on Binge. It is a Peacock original in the US.
I was at the movies this week, and I went along to see... Actually, I went along to see a bunch of movies. I was out for the first 3 nights of this week watching the films. Let's kick off with... I guess this is the week's big release in terms of comedic star power. It's called The Roses. Let's have a look at a clip.
For you, dear, I'd do anything.
I do believe that's true.
It really is.
Theo Rose, my favorite architect. How's married life?
The kids are amazing.
We're going to the beach!
Right, don't drown. Ivy, it's a monster success.
Would you do a photo shoot for New York Magazine?
Nude?
I don't think so.
Well, I'll do it anyway.
But you are still a failure.
You got fired.
Fired? I sense trouble.
How was your day?
The neighbour's dog shat in the laundry. The kids have got knit together. My left eye's twitching.
More champagne for me, please?
If you need a shoulder or an inner thigh to lean on.
What?
I'm kidding.
The book upon which The Roses is based came out in 1981. It's written by a man named Warren Adler. Now, in 1981, divorce was an epidemic in America, and the rise of divorce lawyers and the high-profile court cases and clashes over property and dividing up the wealth were everywhere. Divorce, families splitting up, how it affected the children were the topic of conversation in 1981. The novel was made into a film in 1989, directed by Danny DeVito, starring Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner. They were coming off the 2 Romancing the Stone films. Seeing them take on the nastiness that was central to Warren Adler's novel was dark but fun. I don't think anyone remembers the film too fondly, but it certainly spoke to a certain time. At the start of that decade, we were all sort of shocked by the wave of divorces, that epidemic that I speak of that was sweeping America. By the end of the 80s, we were there for a little bit of satire on that, a bit of reflection about how nasty it got and how that might look if we took it to the nth degree. If we jump ahead now to 2025, trying to place all those elements into a comedy and casting the awards-drenched pedigree of Olivia Coleman and Benedict Cumberbatch, having it adapted by Tony McNamara, the guy who wrote The Favourite and who did the show on television about the Russian Tsars, and Elle Fanning. With his sharp tongue, all of this should have added up to one of the films of the year. I went into this with a very high expectations. Also, to note that you've got the comedy chops of Jay Roach, the director of it, the man who did all the Austin Powers films, who's done the Meet the Fockers films. So he knows, certainly from the Meet the Fockers films, he knows family tension and family dynamic and how to make us laugh about it. And yet, I get to the end of The Roses and realised I've barely raised a chuckle in this film. The 2 characters played by Olivia and Benedict are not particularly real people, and they speak in that very clipped British tone, hurling insults at each other in a way that feels like it's from the typewriter of a scriptwriter and not from the mouths of real people. The actual fight that they get into, and this is really about 2 wealthy white people arguing over their beautiful dream home until it gets to the point of physical abuse, it's just desperately unfunny. And what I found most disappointing about this was in 2025, the story could have taken a bit of a pivot, and it could have been about privilege. It could have been about that middle class Malay. It could have been about late, mature age career change, like it befalls the Benedict Cumberbatch character in this film, or sudden realization of dreams and new wealth as impacts the Olivia Coleman character in this film. But none of that is really sort of explored to any great degree. The laughs in this, as scant as they are, I guess were meant to come by the casting of Kate McKinnon and Andy Samberg, and a couple of other characters sort of on the side that were meant to come in and play those sort of silly support characters that provide cheap, quick laughs. But that doesn't really happen either. So this one, I kept saying to myself, this has all the makings of a film that was thrown together by a talent agency to get all the clients together and make a movie out of it, that didn't really have anywhere to go or anywhere to say. And there's a bit of fun to be had hearing Ben and Livy sort of snarl at each other in that clipped British tone. But we had every right to expect that this was going to be a whole lot better than it turned out to be. And in the end, it amounted to very little.
Yeah, look, I gave the screening for this a bit of a miss for two reasons. One, I just didn't really see the point of this movie. Like, there was something that felt very artificial and inorganic about it existing.
That's exactly right. That's exactly what I mean.
It's a cynical exercise in, hey, look, we kind of know what everyone's going to find funny. Let's just put it all together. And it was a package as opposed to a script coming from a place of authentic sort of humour.
Yeah. I totally agree. I think it's these two trying to leave behind, well, in his case, MCU stuff. In her case, that kind of, award, eccentric sort of award performance that she's known for, to play kind of more contemporary, kind of more real characters. They're no more real than Doctor Strange or the Queen from the Forgotten or the Forgiven or whatever it was called. This was. You're absolutely right. This inauthentic is a great way of describing this.
Yeah, the other reason I gave it a big miss was just purely because, and look, I was probably too young when I saw the original version, but I just never really cared for it. I'd never found my way into it, and, I didn't need to revisit a film which I just didn't care for much to begin with, especially something which didn't really seem to be bringing anything new to it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I remember because they were both such big stars, Douglas and Turner at the time, and they were coming off the Romancing the Stones film, and this was a very sort of dark path for them to go down. I remember vividly the original film because there's a scene in it where, as everything sort of implodes to its most ugliest degree, he says he's put the dog into a recipe. They've got this beloved dog that they share, and he's put it into the recipe. And instantly they have a shot of the dog on the front lawn going, "Burr?" Sort of looking up and looking back at the house. Yeah. And at that point, I thought, they've pardon the pun, but they've screwed the pooch there. They've gone back and they've put that thing in because they didn't want to go quite that dark. And sure enough, years later, I was reading like an oral history of this show, and Danny DeVito admitted that, in the film he was meant to have killed the dog and put it in the recipe, but test audiences didn't allow him to do that, so they had to put that one shot in. And that's when I remember thinking, that's kind of pulling the kind of punch. And this new version just never even gets to that degree of cleverness or that believable level of nastiness. It's also, it's inauthentic.
Yeah, okay. Well, look, I don't regret not getting along to this one. And it's a shame because I'd kind of like to see a few more like original comedies, but this is not an original comedy, and therefore I don't actually tick the box of what I'm really asking for.
Let me roll straight into what else have I been watching, because I can be very quick with these.
Okay, let's do it.
Conjuring Last Rites is the, I want to say, fourth of the Conjuring films. This is the story of the Warrens, played by Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson. Most of us are familiar. It's been a series of very mixed entries. I remember being quite terrified, and have actually watched again the second one, which was the one that visited London and spoke of the Enfield poltergeist story, and it was a terrific little horror film. By this fourth one, this is the one where the Warrens retire. They are really leaning into some overly earnest sentimentality in this one. This is keyed very much towards, for a film series that's travelled quite well, this one's very keyed towards an American audience. There's a lot of really sort of on-the-nose, family is everything kind of sentimentality in this. The frights are absolutely PG based. I imagine the Foley guys backstage trying to think of all the different ways they can make a creaky door sound scary, because there's so many creaky doors in this movie. And there's a whole lot of illogical leaps that I just went, oh, come on, you can't just throw that on the audience. You're really taking advantage of audience goodwill for the Conjuring films to try to get that past us. So this one is, they talk about the dog days of August and the end of the summer movie-going period. This is definitely a final week of summer sort of movie release. The other one that I got quite excited about this week, and I discovered this on the Australian version of Tubi, was Thank You Very Much. This is the documentary about Andy Kaufman, which goes through the comedian's life, and it's kind of part of this wave of documentaries, things like the Robin Williams one that came out a few years ago. There was a Gene Wilder one where they sort of play psychologist to these comedians and try to dig down into why they created the characters and what made them tell the jokes that they told. Yes, you're absolutely right to go, they can be a bit on the nose. This is one of the better ones, only because he was such a complex character, and it sort of makes the notion that he was always in character. Like, his performance was just being Andy Kaufman. He was always sort of on character and trying to create different things, or his counter character. A lot of talk in here about his time on Taxi, a lot of talk about his wrestling and taking on women as part of wrestling, and how that was all part of his kind of twisted view of reality. It was an interesting documentary. I don't think it really sort of shed any more light on Kaufman that we already know, and I don't think he would want it to. So that's what else I've been watching.
Yeah, I feel I know the story. I'm good.
Yeah. What else have you been watching?
Look, as I said at the top of the podcast, I've got a triptych of movies that I was going to...
That's a great word.
Triptych?
Triptych.
I've never really quite known. Okay, so I finally got around to The Materialists. Now, this is a film which, if you write down a list of things that I'm after from a movie, this ticks every single box.
Sure.
And it does. I don't think it's a bad movie. I just didn't dig it that much.
Okay.
Like, it just felt a little bit flat to me. I don't know, I just didn't find my way to it. And it's a shame, because it looked really nice, and I actually thought the performances were all pretty good. I thought the plot was interesting enough. It's all the elements were just kind of there for it. Just didn't quite work for me.
Fair enough.
It's fine. Maybe on a different afternoon, I'd probably find myself a bit more into it. It just didn't really happen. But, you bring yourself to a movie as well when you're watching these things. And,
You got to weigh in on that? Yep. I was very high on it when I saw it at the movies, and I think probably...
I remember you being quite a fan.
Quite
I mentioned at the top, and I don't think I have more to say on it than I did at the beginning, but Pulp Fiction, this is a film which, look, it came out when I was 14 years old. Quentin Tarantino, pretty much dominated a certain type of film enthusiast through the 90s going into the 2000s.
Sure.
I think I certainly got caught up in that wave to a certain degree. Pulp Fiction, I think it's a stonking good movie, but I've certainly seen this film way too many times. The last time I saw the movie was at one of those Moonlight outdoor cinema
Oh my God.
things. And at that point, I remember just sitting there watching it going, I've seen this film so many times.
They are the worst way to watch movies, I've got to point out to you. But
Yeah,
yes,
they're awful.
It is. That's a little disappointing when you get to that stage and you remember how much you did love this movie, and you remember movie-going moments that were absolutely definitive in your love of films, and this movie was part of it. When you get to that point when you're like, I've kind of watched that enough. I've kind of done that with a couple of the classics. I don't think I can go back to Die Hard again. I think I've just about seen that enough times.
I think I'm cusping on that.
Yeah. If I went to the video cabinet and just said, what could I grab now and watch immediately? It would be Close Encounters and Jaws and Raiders, like those three early Spielberg ones. And then after that, wow. Maybe The Breakfast Club. I'd probably do that once a year. But yeah, you're right. Sometimes they just they wither on the vine.
Yeah. That said, I watched Pulp Fiction after so many years of not having seen it. It's fantastic. I understand absolutely why it was that it became the film that it is, and why I've seen it so many times. I'm probably going to be okay seeing it again. I think going forward. I think I've given myself enough of a break in between. But certainly, that film felt so familiar to me with every single beat of that movie. It was disturbing.
Now, I will ask you very quickly, and I know we're going to race through this, but you and I are both devout Once Upon a Time in Hollywood fans. I would also weigh in that his script for True Romance is near perfect. Is Pulp Fiction still your favourite? Was it ever your favourite Tarantino film?
I mean, it was when I only had that and Reservoir Dogs to choose from.
Sure.
And I quite liked Reservoir Dogs. My favourite's Jackie Brown. I just think that's...
Really?
Yeah. Unimpeachably the best.
That's interesting.
But I also, like, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood comes so damn close.
Yeah.
Man, love that film. Simon Foster, last thing we're going to talk about this week is Electric Dreams. When I was a kid, my dad really, really liked the movie Electric Dreams. So my mum went and bought it on VHS. Yeah. This is in the mid to late 80s when, you didn't really buy that many things on VHS. At least not normal people, Simon. You, I'm sure, had a very healthy library.
Yes, I really did.
Yeah. Normal people didn't really buy much in the way of VHS. And if you did, you had like 4 or 5 tapes, and like that was pretty much the end of your library. One of the 4 or 5 tapes in the Barrett household was Electric Dreams. Came in a very sort of puffy case, as I recall. Being one of the few VHS tapes in the house, my sister and I watched the crap out of that movie. We have seen that film so many times. Like, I've maybe seen it more times than Pulp Fiction at this point, purely from those early years of watching that film. You may remember from VHS era, they used to play movie trailers before movies, even the ones that you bought from the shops. In front of the Electric Dreams film, there were a couple of trailers. One of them I remember very firmly as being The Russells, a movie that to date I've still never seen, but I think I'd quite like if I saw it.
The Russells?
The Russells.
Oh, the Russells. Oh, the the Python
the
version
mockumentary.
Of the Beatles. Oh, God, yes, yeah. No, yeah. No,
never seen it. Another trailer, and this is like maybe there's only 2 trailers in this film, but the other one that's always like just been there, and I've always thought this is a movie that I just want to see. Downtown, starring Anthony Edwards and oh gosh, what's his name? Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah, God, I didn't. When you said at the top of the show, I'm thinking, oh my God, I don't know what movie he's talking about. And as soon as you said Anthony Edwards, when just all the merchandising came back into my head. Yeah, all right, I get it.
Yeah. So look, Downtown, if people don't know this movie, which to be fair is probably everyone except for Simon, and anyone who was fans of the Electric Dreams VHS tape, this is a mismatched buddy cop comedy film from the House Lawn Times of 1990. When you watch it these days, you go, you know what? This is a little bit racist.
Oh, for God, yes, yeah.
That's generally the tone, and usually I'm willing to give films a certain amount of latitude for coming out in the era that they did. But even I was sitting down going, you know what? This is a little bit racist. Some other names you've got in the cast here. You got your Penelope Ann Miller. You got your
Classic.
Joey Pants.
Yeah. I'm just looking at it now, and as soon as I saw the cover of them sitting on a flipped-over police car, I kept, yep, that's the video box. I remember this.
Yep. Police captain played by Ron Canada. It ticks every box that you're kind of expecting from a buddy cop film from 1990. Sure. I sat down watching this movie. I thought, yes, it's a little bit racist. Also, this really isn't any good. I completely understand why this film has not lasted the test of time with anyone ever talking about this movie following its release. I understand why Anthony Edwards never became a star. There's just all sorts of things I came to realise while watching Downtown. And the number one thing I learned while watching this film was I'm really wasting my time, and I did not make it to the end.
Okay, yeah, I guess in the scale, in the pantheon of buddy cop movies, this is a fairly minor entry. It would have to be said. This was clearly coming in the wake of the Lethal Weapons and the when that buddy cop comedy sort of burst out of the fact it's directed by Richard Benjamin, who's kind of Hollywood royalty to some extent. He's been around for 1,000 years and has done lots of some good work anyway. Yeah, you look through this cast, when you look at that 90s cast of Penelope Ann Miller and Joey Pants, David Clennon from The Thing. There's just so many recognisable names down the line here. But yeah, this was a movie that I think it was a pickup for... I wonder why it was on Electric Dreams. See, now this is my head going crazy, because Electric Dreams was a Roadshow home video release and Downtown was a CBS Fox home video release.
Maybe keep us your sort of quiet hours in the morning and we'll just move on to the podcast.
That's going to keep me awake, so I will be thinking about this all through the night. So, interesting. No, good to know. All right, Downtown, yes. Where did you see that? Where was it?
So look, this has been my white whale of a film. I've literally been trying to watch this movie. So obviously we had that tape in the early 90s. Yeah. And I've been trying to see the film ever since then. I've just never found it anywhere. So about maybe 7 or 8 months ago, I got onto the sort of dark elements of the web involving torrents, and I found a torrent for Downtown, and to no surprise, there was nobody sharing that movie. Like, that was a dead torrent that was just sitting there. Anyway, I was trying to, grab something the other day, and then for some reason, the Downtown, torrent just came alive, and within about, 3 minutes, I had the entire movie. I just don't even know. I just had it running in the background because I was like, maybe one day. So it was like a miracle that I was able to see Downtown, because it's not a film you can buy on DVD anywhere. It's never on TV. It's not on any streaming services. And
well, I imagine all the rights for it have dropped off everywhere and just nobody wants to pick it up.
Yeah, and reasonably so.
Yeah. All right. Okay, good way to end the show. You really should drop the trailer in here for Downtown just so that people know what we're talking about.
Okay, well, let's go out with a trailer from Downtown. Folks, this has been Screen Watching. My name's Dan Barrett. You can find me at alwaysbewatching.com. It's a newsletter. It's a way of life. Sign up. Simon Foster.
Screen-space. Make sure you put the hyphen in there, otherwise you'll get a Venetian blind company in Melbourne. My Substack newsletter has just gone out as we recorded this, so do go to Substack and sign up for that. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, the program for the Sydney Science Fiction Film Festival is live as of today. We can see lots of really good films. You want a little peek at the program? We're closing the festival with a tribute to Val Kilmer with a screening of The Island of Dr. Moreau, the film that all but ruined his career, but we thought it'd be a good one to screen on the big screen.
Okay, Simon, well, you've got my ticket. Folks, this has been Screen Watching. We'll be back next week. Here's Downtown.
Hit it! Sergeant Dennis Curran is a downtown cop who survives on instinct.
You better keep talking, boy. I'm going to switch on you myself.
He fights dirty, and he works alone.
What the hell you want me for?
But he's about to get the one thing he doesn't need.
I want to be a cop, Dennis.
A partner.
Back off. Hey, Curran, I'm going with you. I just think it's kind of risky to jeopardize another officer like that, especially when it's me.
Now, Curran's greatest threat isn't waiting in the streets. It's sitting on the seat beside him.
Gotta be honest, I haven't spent much time in places like this.
You stay in the car country, Dennis.
If you're gonna question the suspect, you should read him his rights first.
You know, it's damn refreshing to see that kind of professionalism these days.
Just stay in the car.
Would you please stop telling me to do that?
You're the right place, son! No problem. I got it totally under control. Give me something I can use.
Yo, that is one of the worst violations of department ethics I have ever... I told you to stay here, boy!
Forrest Whitaker.
Get off my desk.
Anthony Edwards.
Put your hands up, you're under arrest.
They're teaming up and going downtown.
Go on about your business. There's nothing to see here. You got that?